All right, man. What's going down? I'm just chilling here, listening to some music, and wanted to go live. And I saw my boy Amit was live, so I didn't want to go live while him and Chris um, were live because obviously I respect those guys a lot and wanted to listen a lot to what they're saying. Um, so decided to wait until they were done. But nothing really new for me, man, other than just wanting to catch up and just listen to some music and give some thoughts. Whether or not I can get some clips out of it, whether or not anybody shows up, it's fine. But a lot of people, and I have my Twitter stream up somewhere and I can maybe share it. A lot of people are still very bullish about the oil markets. And the thing that bothers me a little bit, and I hope that a lot of people don't get burned, is we're beginning the recession area periods and a lot of economic slowdown. And if you remember very much what happened with 2008, the oil price went up to 100, $140 a barrel. And then we obviously entered a great financial crisis, and we saw what happened with prices there. So my fear is a lot of people are seeing this as a big buying opportunity. A lot of people are looking at what's been the best returning positions on Robinhood and best returning positions on their Fidelity apps, and they're seeing energy up hundreds of percent, and they're continuing to just continue to pile money into those things because it's what's worked for the past year. But the easy money has honestly been made, right? In 2Q, 3Q, a lot of that money was made by the fact that oil prices went up substantially year over year. Refining margins went through the roof, and it's just not the case anymore. Oil prices have retraced from at its peak of 138 bucks a barrel more recently to being even below 80 bucks more recently as well. So that's a pretty large retracement. $60. It's almost a 40% retracement in the price, and I still think a lot of people think that oil is back at over $100 a barrel, and so I just want people to kind of be recognize that in the short term there might be more pain with it. And I just caution people that if they have money um, in oil and they've done well with it, to maybe take some potential profits. And I don't think anybody would fault you for that. Do I think in the long term oil might come back? Sure. I don't necessarily think it's going to get too down the dumps right here. I still think there's a decent amount of demand, especially with China picking up in the future with the zero COVID policy and stuff of the like. But I just think that there's more supply on deck going into 23 and 24 with what they have in Guyana that Exxon's kind of discovered coming online, coupled with a bunch of projects kind of coming on in the Gulf of Mexico. And the fact that OPEC is already talking about cutting their production rates is just a telling sign that they're kind of picking at straws at this point. And so I want people to kind of recognize that with high oil prices generally brings low oil prices and people chase. So, but I'm here to talk about anything. Um, what's going on with me? If you guys haven't seen, I just put an offer in on a rental property, so we'll talk a little bit about that in the future. Maybe when it comes a little bit more clear. Um, but what else is there? Just consistently buying every single time I get a paycheck. What's going on, Nate? What's going on, Dante? Hot Chris, you're the man. And Dex, what's going on, guy? But yeah, consistently buying, man. Every time I get a paycheck, and I think this is where people think a lot of people are saying you put in 500 bucks and be able to um, grow it to be $10 million. And it's just, is it likely? Not really. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Um, I just think that a lot of people hate hearing the simplicity of how easy investing is. Um, and the way I like to break it down is this, and a lot of people don't like to think about it this way. You have $1,000 and you want to get to 1 million. What's the easiest way to have the amount of work that you need to do to get to a million? And the answer is save another $1,000 because going from 1,000 to a million, you're going to have to 1,000 extra money. If you go from 2,000 to a million, you're only going to have to 500 extra money. And a lot of people don't like hearing that. They're like, no, man, there's got to be some certain super simple proven way to be able to get to where I want to go. And the answer is it's not. And that's probably why you haven't made any progress. And it's super simple, man. Like you always just have to focus on the five key things that we always talk about on the channel, which is objective, time horizon, risk tolerance, how active and passive you want to be, and then how much you're going to contribute all the time. But to me, I just know that where my path is headed is just continuously just buying and having a good old time, and eventually I'll find something to do with all the money. But it's more about acquiring assets than anything. And to me, that just means every time I get paid, just be a student of my word and just put away 30% of whatever you make. And eventually, over time, you're going to have more money than you know what to do with. And I say this all the time. So I feel like whenever I come on a stream or anything like that, I'm like talking like in circles, but hopefully it always is attracting a new audience. There's a really good article by Mr. Money Mustache that was basically writing about the simple math behind early retirement. Um, that's a good question. I want to get back to that. Um, and the simple math to early retirement was a really good article, basically talking about if you anticipate that with a 5-6% rate of return and a specific savings rate, and your expenses are kind of associated with your savings rate, right? So obviously, if you have a 30% savings rate, then your expenses are 70% of what your normal take home is and whatever. So if you kind of use those methods, it's something like I think if you're investing only like 10%, you're going to be working for 51 years. You're saving something like 15%, you're going to be working for 40 some years. You save for 20% of your money, um, you're going to be working for probably closer to 35 to 40 years. And there's other ways to narrow that down, right? That's using a consistent, after tax rate of return of like 4, 5, 6%, something like that. So obviously, if you're able to double that rate of return, you're going to be able to decrease it as well. But I don't think a lot of people even think that far ahead. And I think people just read something, they don't think everything all the way through. Like, for example, people will probably be like, Matt's pretty monetarily and financially savvy. He probably contributes his max amount to a 401k. And the answer is I don't. I don't think that that's prudent to do. But that's my circumstance, not yours. Like I have 70%, if not a little bit, maybe more of my money outside of retirement accounts. But that's because I want access to that money to be able to make any sort of investments that I want. And so I anticipate that, you know, in the next 4 or 5 years, if I honestly wanted to walk away from a job, I could. I probably won't. But I want to have access to that money, invest in real estate or whatever I want to invest in. Whereas so many people are tying up their money to their 59 and a half. And then you hear people talk about, oh, 72T and all that. It's like, that's still, that's still not allowing me to use my money how I want to use it. And so I think a lot of people just immediately just like blindly listen, and it can be right, right? But there's always the exception. And if you think about however many different things that you're doing, you're always going to be an exception to at least one rule or one investment problem or something of the like, right? If you think about the fact that there's probably 20 different investment things you need to think about, one out of those 20, you're definitely going to be an exception. And so if you're just blindly leading yourself down that path without thinking, you might be making a mistake. But, my guy, there you go. Yeah, we got my guy Gigi in here. What's going on, my guy? Very well. I do need to. What happened to my mic? I'm using a Yeti, so if it's not coming through, let me know. I think I have it set up. for the speaker. Yeah, the mic is. Oh no, that's not the one I wanted to use. I want to use this one. This one not coming through. That's what I wanted to use. I guess when I turned on my headset, it switched up. So hopefully that this one's a little bit better. Mr. Becca, what's going on, my guy? And I also got really lazy the other night, and I was we've been under boil water advisory here Sunday night into Monday and even into early this morning. So I knew I was going to be working from home. So I took my lounge chair, which is a big lounge chair. Yeah, sorry, I originally had it on the Yeti, and then I guess I wanted to listen to music while I was talking, and it automatically switched to this, and the microphone is pulled all the way back. So yeah, man, we live in a third world country where we have to be under boil water advisory here in the city of Texas or city of Houston. So anyway, I switched around my big comfy chair and pushed my computer chair into my kitchen and had to spend lounging all day. So doing work, of course, um, but yeah. So yeah, hopefully this mic is a little bit better. But Dante, I wanted to get back to your question. Do you set contributions on autopilot? Of course, yes and no. Um, so what I put into my 401k is on autopilot. So that mostly goes into 85% like S&P 500 equivalent, and then 15% cash. And then um, with my, I have a few other investments that are kind of consistent. I have some Bitcoin buys and Ethereum buys on auto pay or auto buy, and then I do Fundrise every month still. What else do I do? Auto buy, and then everything else is kind of just going directly to a savings account. And with that savings account, whenever I find there's enough money, I'll drain it into my checking, and then I'll push it into my brokerage. What happened to the NHS deal? Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the NHS deal. That means Palantir's not going to get it." It's like, no. What it is there's four key components of the NHS deal, and they didn't want they didn't want one company to be in control of all of those four things. And so Palantir's still in the running for, I think it's a $400 million deal in total that's out there. Palantir's still on the hook for or bidding for the $360 million part of it. So still 90% of the contract's worth. So, but yeah, I appreciate the mic. If you guys give any feedback, I appreciate you mentioned something because I didn't even realize I was trying to use this headset. I'd rather use this Yeti mic, which I bought. So, gonna try to incorporate that now. But but yeah, I think, and I'm curious, Hala Madrid, like when you say 10% S&P, does that mean strictly through a 401k, or what does that mean? And Miss Rebecca, I haven't talked to you in a little bit. So how are you doing, and how are things? Did Hot Dave come and visit you when he walked through Tennessee or not? Buy my companies and hold forever. There you go. Yeah, but TNL Mao, where are we going for lunch on Friday, man? I need to yeah, strictly through 401k. Okay. Am I buying a Lambo? No, not yet. Maybe a Palantir goes to the moon. But until then, I'm kind of screwed. I just gotta wait, and um hopefully Palantir will turn around. Oh, Nico. Okay. I'm all about it. I work from home on Friday, so it's just a drive down the street, so I'm all about that. We got to see if our boy Mr. Monster wants to join us. And I don't know, he said he might be in the motherland. I got to message him. But yeah, Gigi, you got to tell me we got to on Friday you got to let me know about all the different uh stocks and stuff you're buying. I know you sold out of a lot of them, so let's see. Let me message my boy Stevie. Are you in Motherland? Have I been DCing into Palantir or cooling off for now?
Um, I keep buying Palantir. Uh, not the last week or maybe week and a half, but I went recently from 3,500 shares to 4,000. So I have been buying still. Um, hey, Davy boy. Um, been buying a little bit of Rocket Lab and mostly the S&P 500. Question about specifically what I think of Datadog, Crowd, and MDB. Honestly, haven't done too much research on a lot of those. I was looking at Salesforce for a little bit. Me and a few of my buddies that chat offline, and we were talking specifically about how Salesforce was looking to get pretty cheap. Um, so I don't know what happened to Moki. I don't know. I wish him the best, but I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he discusses. So, what type of engineer am I? My educational background is petroleum engineering. So that's what I do mostly for my 9 to 5. A very close subset of petroleum engineering. But Davey, you got to talk to us, man. You got to. I wonder if I can get Dave on the stream. What do you think? Let's see if we can get Davey on here. Let's see. Um, that's 30% on track with your goal. So I got, well, Dave, you're in bed. You're going to threaten me with a good time like that, and I'll hop on. I get it. Still on EST. I got to find out where you're at. I know, man. I was just excited to see you here. I'm glad that you're safe, and I need to still finish watching. I think I got like 15 or 20 episodes left. So just glad to see that you're safe. Um, Dante specifically asking, has investing 30% been on kind of par with my goal, or do I invest more when possible? I would say um, it's more of a goal. I do get there a lot of the time, but there's months where I'll get a little bit of extra cash. So for sure, from my 9 to 5, I invest probably 30%, and then anything extra that I make on the side, I'll definitely throw at it. So it probably ends up being more than that. Um, like specifically in 2021, I made a crap ton of money doing sponsorships and stuff of the like, and I threw all that back in the stock market. I didn't take a dime of it in my pocket, not even to pay for taxes. I paid out of taxes out of my own pocket, and so because of that, um, yeah, it probably ended up being, that's 100% savings rate on that income stream, right? So, um, yeah, I'll be the small spoon. Yeah, Dave, we got to figure out when our Southeast Asia trip is, man. That'd be dope. Yeah, that'd be dope. What else you guys want to know, man? I apologize. I haven't been doing all these streams all too often, and would love to keep doing them more. Critical mining companies will prosper. I think lithium companies will do well. I think I'm trying to remember where BHP's at. If what their share price is at. We'll see. Let me check. Huh. My guy's Stefan. Where is BHP at? BHP. It's up to 61 already. Damn. I was just about to say, might be a good time to buy because it was in the low 50s, and now, literally within a month, it's up 26%. Damn. Well, it is what it is. But yeah, I think lithium companies will be good. I think the problem is, um, I don't know if there's any massive, like, huge moat lithium companies. Uranium, UUU's done well. Um, hmm. Castro and BB said they were able to create 4 apps with Foundry. They didn't want to mention savings and value creation. Is that for competition? I don't know. I really do not. Do you think Palantir versus Microsoft will be like Square versus Amazon? It's too early to tell because it depends what you're looking at, right? Are you talking about as a whole company? Palantir, its services, I think are still in its infancy. Microsoft has a lot of different businesses, but if you're talking about, say, the deep data analytics and decision making and all that stuff, that's a different story, right? But if you're comparing just like company versus company, then it's a very different story, I guess. So I don't know what specifically when you're asking this question, if you're talking company versus company, or if you're talking data analytics, deep dive, deep diving data analytics and decision making versus what Microsoft is trying to create with that. Um, so not 100% sure on that one. But I agree, man. Uranium, I think, is still good. I still see a lot of countries in around the world getting back into nuclear. A lot of people are stepping away for a while. Southeast Asia is getting very heavily involved in the nuclear again as well. So I'm curious, and I think it's only going to be exacerbated by what's going on in the world with natural gas. And if you need this transition fuel that's now scarce or not necessarily supplied by your own country, it's going to be tough. Here in the United States, we're spoiled, right? We have a massive amount of natural gas, and so that's why our feed gas is. That's why we're the feed gas for the rest of the world. Similar to what Russia was doing, they had so much gas. So if you think about it, just literally a little over a year ago, our gas was selling at $3 an MCF, and since a few of these LNG ports have come on full stream, Corpus Christi, Sabine Pass, Freeport LNG, all these LNG plants, you just continue to see the LNG exports going up and up and up to the point where I think now we probably export close to a quarter of what we make in the United States. And so you think about it, and this is exactly what happened when the Freeport LNG plant went down, is when you have a large amount of supply now no longer being exported, it has to be bought in the local markets. And so when you had that Freeport LNG plant go down, you now had 2 BCF of supply on a daily basis that needs to be bought up. And so what happens is you're going to have to decrease the price because there's obviously way more supply locally. Well, that supply was used to have demand elsewhere, but if you don't have an LNG plant to export it, you don't have that demand, right? So I think you'll continue to see a globalization of prices in the LNG markets. Not in 2023, but I'd say as we go into 24, I think there's 2 or 3 main LNG terminals that will come online. There's a few international LNG terminals that will also come online. And then you'll have Qatar, which just started their, I don't know, I forget what it's called, Northwest Expansion LNG plant that they're going to be starting up in the second half of the decade as well. But LNG is going to become a very globalized commodity, very much like oil. So it'll be interesting to see. How do you feel about investing in Fundrise versus investing in REITs via the stock market? Would you say investing in both is a good strategy? Do you feel overexposed to real estate? I think real estate it's like real estate's kind of its own thing, right? It's like, and this is where it kind of gets tricky, is people look at real estate like investing in the stock market. Um, there's so many different ways to invest in real estate, right? There's multifamily, there's flipping, there's um, single family residential homes, there's commercial real estate, there's storage, there's industrial real estate. And so I think like when you think about investing in real estate, you have to think what works best for you. Um, and it goes no different than what investing in Fundrise and real estate investment trusts. Fundrise, you can choose whether or not you kind of want to invest more into, say, debt, meaning like investing into mortgages and supplying construction loans and mezzanine loans and stuff like that, which provides you kind of like a monthly, or in this case, a quarterly income stream. Or you can invest in growth areas, whether that's LA. You used to be able to invest in the Heartland, which I think was kind of like the Midwest area. Um, Now they're doing a lot of investing in Texas, single family home investing in Texas. But it's illiquid, right? So it being illiquid means you don't necessarily have that ability to just buy and sell out of it. But some people really like that ability of the stock market and real estate investment trust, because you have that daily liquidity that if you really wanted to, you could sell it. So I think there's pluses and minuses of both. I think the thing that bothers me most about real estate investment trusts is the constant dilution that you experience in a real estate investment trust. It's a vehicle in itself that is meant to be diluted over time. And what I mean by that is 90% of the um, net income of a real estate investment trust has to be given back to shareholders. That's not to say all the income, right? It's net income, which obviously gets impacted very much by the depreciation of the real estate. But what that doesn't leave you with is a lot of cash that you can reinvest back into that business. And so, because of that, you have to either distribute debt, issue more shares, or whatever. And so, I think the problem with investing in REITs, just like investing in the stock market, is you have to choose one that you like. And a lot of times people go with what they're familiar with. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one. And so for me, I really liked in the previous years triple net real estate, like CVS's, Walgreens, um, previously like Lifetime Fitness, all those sorts of companies that utilize triple net real estate. And that's where you invest in something like a Realty Income or a WP Carry. But those have started to get challenged. Walgreens is starting to shrink their footprints and how many stores. Um, and same thing with CVS. And so that impacts the potential long-term viability of that business model, coupled with Amazon potentially doing, or just in general, more direct-to-consumer pharmacy and pharmaceutical drugs, impacting you no longer having to go to CVS or Walgreens, which is a huge moneymaker for them. But also, so that's, I like Realty Income, but I think in the medium term, it's definitely something I'm going to have to get out of for that reason. I think some of their industries that are main staples for them are at risk. I also really love warehouse real estate investments right now. If you saw how well warehouse real estate investment trusts did from 2014 to 2021, you know what I would be talking about, and you would have saw the same if you invested in like data center REITs, which I did well on, and like I got in late for uh, data center real estate investment trusts, but if you invested in them from like 2011 to like 2015, you would have made a mint. But I invested late. I probably invested like late to mid 2014, and I think probably held until late 2016 or whatever. And I still did well on my Cyrus One investment, but um, could have done a little bit better. But I think that's the hard part is for people to truly understand where your money is best placed in a real estate investment trust. And I think a lot of times they're not nearly as transparent as people think that they are. And they're huge debt vehicles. So most of the time having way higher loan to value ratios than I would want. So um yeah, finance junkies is the new thing. Everyone's just trying to be a mint man. But going back to Microsoft and Palantir, asking whether you think Microsoft will crowd out market share so Palantir won't grow, but like Square versus Amazon, Square had innovation stack to beat them, and Palantir has the stack to win. It's going to be hard because Microsoft is pretty good about putting out a product and then getting a business to adopt that product. And it's worked well. But you have to think like Microsoft really hasn't changed what they've been doing. Like they don't do cloud for the sake of doing cloud. They do cloud for the sake of you having to have the ability to put Office 365 onto the cloud, which then enables you to do other things and um, be a little bit more live with your updates, and you can have more than one people in a spreadsheet at a time and do SharePoint and stuff of the like, and that's been useful. Um, but I don't know if what Microsoft is really going after is truly going to alter the deep analytics market and decision making market that Palantir is in. I've yet to see it. My fear is though is that they could. Microsoft's not a bad company. I like Microsoft and I think they do great things. But I think that what Microsoft is after is different. And I think that they like to make ready made off the shelf products. And I don't think that what Palantir does is like that. Palantir is a very collaborative, okay to fail sort of company. So my hope is that Palantir will win in that particular market, but Microsoft's pretty good at what they do as well. So, but Doom, what's going on, man? I saw How to Mint was in here. Excuse me, Dex is still here. Whoa, sorry, I've been nursing a cough, so that's my fault. But yeah, just wanted to hop on, man. And best product would sell itself as bullcrap a long time because Microsoft exists. Um, established titles or FTX? What are you talking about? The only thing I do is I'll buy my crypto and stuff on Robinhood, and then I transfer it to my own wallets. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. It's what this is like I've realized this a lot on Twitter and stuff, and people are so people are so lost, and this isn't new to this day and age. It's just the ability for people to follow what other people are doing is so easy due to social media. It's so easy because of Twitter. Like, look what you guys are doing right now. You're listening to some dude who lives in Houston, literally sitting on a couch with a Yeti mic, who just has a little bit of experience investing in the stock market and loves oil and gas. But yet, here I am going to explain something that I think is pretty profound. And you guys probably know this too, but maybe you just haven't articulated it best for yourselves. Is people are so lost and people are looking for something so much bigger than themselves that sometimes they get caught up in their own dream and they bring down everybody with them. What I mean by that is like everyone's just trying their absolute best. Excuse me. Everyone's just trying their absolute best to get somewhere in life, get somewhere in their dreams, get somewhere where they feel like they can belong or prove something to some other people or prove something to themselves or shit. I even hear this and see this. They hate who they are currently so bad that they'll put on a front and be somebody else because it makes them feel better. Because at least during that time where they're trying to be somebody else, they're not who they really are. And I think a lot of that happens in the crypto world where people are trying to just make it in any way, shape, or form that they can. And that's where you get these people that are literally just trying their best and they get a little bit of power and then things start to slip, right? Um, I don't anticipate that what Sam was doing at FTX, I don't anticipate him being like, I'm just going to steal all these people's money. I thought he honestly thought that crypto was probably never going to stop going up and to the right, just like a lot of people. And so when he started shuffling money off, he didn't really think much of it because he's assumed that the money was always going to kind of be there. And then obviously it didn't end up going there. But you see this with a lot of people. Some people just like, they want a dream so bad. I was watching it was about the largest Ponzi scheme in San Diego history. I was watching it with my mom. I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday of last week. Maybe it was Wednesday last week. But it was talking basically about this woman who just wanted to be a real estate mogul so bad that she made up all these fake documents and ended up getting people that were literally 100 millionaires involved because they knew a bunch of people and it spread like wildfire, right? And it seemed like it was legit. You had all the right people involved and you get the right signatures. And it seems like on the surface, everything is so good that things just start to take off because it seems like a good idea. It's like, oh, wow, why did I think of that? It makes sense. The next thing you know, people are just piling money in because they say pay somebody really good marketing techniques or just has a lot of clout. And that person might be looking for a place to diversify, right? Think of some of these celebrities that invested. They might be like, hey, I get $1 million for getting sponsored by this organization, and I need to diversify into crypto as well. I don't have a lot of crypto. It's new. I should get involved, right? So it starts getting these people wrapped up in it to make it seem like they're the face of it. And it almost attracts away from who you really are and deflects and allows them to kind of build your brand on their behalf, right? So anyway, it's it's interesting. It's taken a lot on its new own life, and I see the same thing on YouTube with people trying to shill their stocks, um, and it's just really interesting. Um, and everyone's just trying their best, right? And this is the funny part about it is people will often become smart enough to make themselves dangerous, but they're not smart enough to get themselves out of the danger that they can put themselves in. And what I mean by that is just like people might be smart enough to know how to write a naked call, but they don't know how to manage the risk appropriately to make sure that that naked call doesn't blow up in their face. That happened to me. Literally lost $60,000, $70,000 in the matter of a couple days when I did that GameStop trade. Gone. And I've been trying to dig myself out of a hole ever since. But that gets you like to know it's like shit. Like it made sense, right? $6,000 trade, $6,000 in my pocket. There's no way GameStop's going to go over $100 a share. Matt's a genius, right? Well, after hours, it goes to 140 bucks a share, and who's the dumbass now, right? So then you have to kind of buy your way back out, and so that's what I mean. Like you're smart enough to know what you're doing, but you're not smart enough to manage the risk and really know what you're doing. And I think unfortunately that's the way a lot of these people work is they're able to read something on the internet, regurgitate it, but they don't fully actually understand. And you have everybody that like literally will that I made this joke yesterday because I did put that offer in on that rental property. I made this joke, but it's kind of true. Is it's like some people honestly might be like, I'm a real estate now. I'm full real estate. That's it. Like this is my life. Like this is always what I wanted. I need something like this. I need to go forward like this. Like this is always something I've envisioned. And so what do? They start all they talk about because one, they're interested in it, and two, it makes them feel good. It makes them feel purpose. It makes them feel alive. They'll start putting real estate mogul um, in their Twitter bio and Instagram bio, and they'll make a YouTube channel, and it's partly to like keep their purpose going, right? But sometimes it takes a life of its own because you have other people showing up and then asking questions, and they might know a little bit, but then it might seem like they know more than they really do, and then that's when you start getting these problems that kind of arise. So, um, anyway, it's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, Cumcoin is really gonna be going to the moon here pretty soon. Rebecca, talk more, my guy. How are you doing? Great year for learning for all investors. I agree. I hope a lot of people are learning. I do want to say, and I've been meaning to say this on a stream or a video, is I've been right about a lot in 2021 and 2022. But I will say, and I do want to take this loss, is I was extremely humbled this year by how quickly and how severely interest rates uh, went up. And it was my naivety and my youth and my inexperience with a drastically increasing rate environment because I really started investing in 2012, 2013 timeframe. I'd never really been in a true inflationary environment. And the only one I had been in was in 2018. And that was extremely small comparatively to what we're seeing today. And slow compared to majority of rising interest rate environments. So I I think in December and January and February and March, I was really only calling for like 2 to 4 interest rate hikes for the year and probably anywhere between a quarter and half a point to the point where I was like, maybe we'll get to like 1 to 1.5% interest rate hikes by the end of the year. And I just want to say that I was wrong 100%. So, um, I just want to say I was humbled, and you guys need to recognize like it's okay to be wrong. And I recognize it's like, well, I didn't really experience the 70s before, and this is kind of what happened in the 70s and 80s. And so, not to say that you need to experience everything to be right, but it just goes to show you like your biases can play with you a good bit. And Pete's Gensler, who's that? I don't know. Comcoin is the same as Rocket Coin. Yes, you were right. Rebecca, how's you and Homeboy? This is a great year. This year is going to lead the foundation for the new millionaires of the future. I agree, man. I agree. I think it's very funny. I saw this the other day, um, and I literally had to face palm as I saw somebody straight up. If you could hear this music, man, If you could hear this music, I promise you. Nora and Pure, she just did a podcast yesterday, and she's great. She does a great job. This guy was literally just like, oh man, growth stocks are dead. I'm selling out. This was serious. I'm selling out. I'm taking all this money and I'm putting into high, um, not high conviction. What did he say? Low volatility, decent dividend paying stocks. Like, I forget what he said specifically, but it was like the equivalent of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the stocks that have only decreased by 5% or gone up by 5 to 10% since the beginning of the year. Those ones. The ones that when the recession comes out on the other side will likely drop in price, right? So he's selling low when this is honestly a time to be buying tech stocks, which is what I've been doing, and buying high into complete. I see a lot of people doing this. I see a lot of people selling out. I see a lot of people when their stocks were down. I know a friend who sold a lot of his S&P at 4,000. And he looked like a genius because he was like, haha, I don't have this drop from 4,000 to 300 or 35.60 or whatever it got to. And I was like, when are you going to buy back in? He was like, when it gets to like 325, 300 to 3,250 or 3,000 or, that's when I'm going to buy back in the SPY. I was like, do you know when we're going to get there? No, I just know we're going to get there. And to me, it's just like, I get it. I get you want to wait. I get you don't want to lose money. But at the same time, you have to take the price action when the price action is there sometimes. Because to me, I'd rather have a bunch of shares at 3,500 in the SPY or 350 SPY than, let's just say, 10% position at 350 SPY, hoping to fill the other 90% of my position at 325 SPY or 3,000 SPY or 300 SPY. Like, you don't know if it's going to get there, but you know for a fact that it's a great deal at 3,500. Not a great deal, but it's a deal, right? And so I see so many people, and like they'll always wait for the bargain price, and they'll miss it. And it's happened to me time and time again. And sometimes it makes sense, right? Sometimes waiting for that price target, it doesn't make sense to invest in it unless it hits that point. But I don't think there's a reason why the S&P 500 would go to 325 or 350, right? I don't think there's one way or another where the value really changes all that much for it to be a difference between the two that much. And so that's my thought process is like, if it's going to go to 350, you might as well buy it because the difference between 325 and 350 isn't that much different. And in 20 years, it's not really going to make a difference anyway. Anyway, marrying Sven and Jody were congratulations. That's awesome. Let's see. Several decades later, Elon Musk will be shitposting on Twitter 3.0. Warren Buffett at the ripe age of 130 will be a multi-trillionaire. Palantir will still be at $8. Getting ready to moon. I like that. I love that. Yeah, I had a dream that I was on my deathbed and I acquired so many shares in Palantir at that point that I just put them in a safety deposit box. I was like, even though I said I said at 2,000 I won't buy anymore, and then I said at 3,000 I won't buy any more shares, and now I'm saying at 4,000 I won't buy any more shares. At some reason, in 30 years, when I'm on my deathbed, I had 100,000 shares of Palantir, And my grandson looked at me all excited because he was the sole heir to the will, and he knows that he's getting these Palantir shares. And he finally gets them, and he adds them into Fidelity, and he gets all these stock certificates, you know, redigitized, puts it in Fidelity or some equivalent, and he opens it up, and it's still $8 a share. But yeah, that's no, it's a bad joke because hopefully it's not to that point. Yeah, hopefully it'll get off $8 a share at some point. Yeah, time in the market beats timing the market. Widely known, but few can execute. Yeah, my buddy, we're in the 390s again in SPY, 3900s in SPY. My buddy's like, I didn't buy anything. And I told him, I was like, I get you wanted to sell out at 4,000. I get it. There's a lot of uncertainty at the time. The war was still kind of really rampant, and we had yet to see the kind of the peak of inflation. Who knows? Maybe inflation will turn around again. CPI will turn around again, but I'm anticipating it'll kind of come down. But yeah, I think a lot of people. What I like to do is if I have cash on hand and I see the market go down by 10%, I'll buy, I forget what it is, 25% of my money and move it of that cash position into equities. And then if it goes down another 10%, I like to put another, because generally speaking, you don't really see greater than 20% market drops very often. So at that point, I probably want to be 40% of my cash or so invested that I'm willing to invest. And at 30%, I probably want to have close to 70, 75%. And if you see more than 40%, I mean, I'm probably spending all that cash because, I mean, that's just the way it is. And so I generally, in that particular scenario, would average probably close to whatever that average cash position, bringing it down by 20 to 25%. And I think I was a little lighter in the top end. So when I'm only 10% down, I think I might only put like 15% in versus 25%. But by the time you get 30% down, like you need to have a good amount of money in because very rarely do you get very bearish markets like 30% down, like we're kind of experiencing. And you have to think how aggressive the Fed has had to be in order for us to see this 35 to 40% decline in the overall NASDAQ 100. So, yeah, he would sell it. And then when my grandson does sell my 100,000 shares of Palantir, that will be the day it moons. I did, man. I nailed crypto winter, and that's not me trying to brag. I just think that that's just the cycle of crypto, and that's why I keep buying. And so I think we're not halfway through. You might start seeing some light in about a year, and I still think that there's an opportunity to go down. Some people think we're going to see Bitcoin at 10K again. I think that's hard. It's tough. I think 15, 16 is a good level. 2.5x of about where we were in the last crypto winter, which was like, what was that? 2018, 2019. I think Bitcoin was kind of in like the 5,000 to 6,000 range. So 2.5 times, 3 times where we were at as kind of a baseline for that. I like that. But I think you'll truly start to see crypto get a little bit more bullish going into 24. So we're about a year away from things to potentially turn around. Which is why I keep buying, man. So we have to think. Yet, like that's another thing. Is it's like people say something very general and broad, like crypto, and they'll say the same thing, like very broad in general, like stocks, and then they wonder why they lose money. And it's like there's 3,500 easily 3,500 stocks you can invest in. There's over 18,000 crypto tokens that you can invest in. It's like you, you're guaranteed to lose money, man. Like if you don't know what the hell you're doing and you're not diligent and you don't put in time, and it just goes that like if you don't want to put any time and effort into it, then just buy the 500 top profitable companies in the S&P 500, like an S&P 500 fund, and just let it go and add money to it. And it's the easiest way to do it because you're not going to have to add a lot of time to it other than setting it up and auto invest. If you don't have time to invest or research, um, limit the amount of money you put into individual securities, because unless you have a hot tip that's legitimate from an actual employee inside and you actually had an insider advantage, you're generally speaking going to lose money 95% of the time. Um, yeah, but you're working all that overtime, so you got plenty of cash. Possible to see a bottom next year. Personally, I will recover way quicker than people think. I think we might go back down one last time to the 3,500 ish range for the SPY, but I think we're on our way to recovery. Personally, um, yeah, I personally think that we're on our way to recovery. Rice and beans. What kind of rice and beans are we talking? Do you think all the paper Bitcoin suppressed the peak price? I don't know. I'm not smart like that, man. I'm not smart like that. Bitcoin halving in April 2024. Each prior halving created new all-time highs under QE. What will Bitcoin do next halving? I don't know. I thought. Let me pull it up, man. Ugh. Let me pull it up because do I have my Twitter over here? No. Twitter, advanced search. Let's look up Matty Moolah and crypto. Let's type in crypto from Real Map Money. Let's check it. All right. Let's see what you guys see. Yeah, that's what you guys see. Okay. Let's go to latest. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's scroll back to like Jan time frame. Maybe I should type in winter. So yeah, May 22. Maybe I should just type in winter. Yeah, I anticipate crypto winter is here, and I've noted for some time. Second half 22 will be crypto winter ahead of a one half 2024 rally. Surprised if it doesn't happen in 24. I'm not finding what I. That's depressing. I thought I would have a better display to put on there. I guess I didn't search the right thing. I'll have to come up with better things. What am I listening to? The video paused. Bahamas. When did she do this? 6 months ago? All right. I like Nora En Pure. She does a good job. As long as inflation and energy costs keep going down, the market's bottom is behind us. Shipping costs. Have you guys seen that picture of like the shipping container costs? That's pretty cool. Shipping container costs. Let's look for images. This is about a few months old, but it'll. God, Nora Pure is so good. Okay. Where am I at? So you can see US dollars for freight was over 10,000 at one point. It's back down to, I think it's even back to below this. Like I said, this is a month or two behind. This is October 22nd, so we're almost into December. Or not October 22nd, October 2022. And we're almost into December. So from what I've seen that it's actually close back to this baseline of around 2,000. So it'd be cool to see what ends up happening with that. A 12 pack of pinto beans can last you a week. Huh. So, yeah, I don't know. I think energy prices are still down. I want to say food costs and stuff are starting to come down a little bit, normalize. But I still think that, like, for example, and this is what I try to, like, I need to understand a little bit more. I was flying back and forth to and from Pennsylvania to visit family for the holiday. And the price of gasoline there was almost $4 a gallon in some places. And here I am in Texas, and it's like $2.65, $2.80. It just doesn't make sense why there's $1 to $1.20 or $1.20 difference in the price. And I just don't know if it's all tax related, or if some of it's logistics related. And I'd like to do a little bit more research on that. And for the 19 of you guys in here, I hope you guys realize there's a very large difference between gas, like petrol gas that you get from a gas station, and natural gas that you use in your homes. And they're very different. So hopefully you guys recognize that. And like when we talk about LNG to Europe, we're talking about mostly methane and ethane. Mostly methane, to be honest, with a little bit of ethane. And we talk about petroleum that you're putting in your car, petrol gas. We're talking about mostly butane, pentane, hexane, heptane, all the way up to some decanes, and whatever the 12 carbon molecule is. I should remember that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And that's mostly what you're using, right? It's the 4 carbon chain molecule to the 12 carbon chain molecule. And so I think a lot of people interchange them. And some people give me crap because I sometimes call, gas station gas that you put in your car petrol, like they do in Europe. But I think it's because people make so much of this distinction that, like, when I say gas, they assume I mean like gas that you put in your car. And when I mean gas, I mean natural gas most of the time. So it's pretty interesting to think about. Uh, who is John Gate? I don't know. I don't know. Dude, this Northern Pure mix is dope. Yeah, I'm curious what else you guys want to hear other than that. I did look into EE when you sent it to me, Chris. It's pretty interesting. So Chris showed me a company called EE. Well, maybe I can have you on at some point and you could talk about it. Um, that basically sets up nearby LNG, floating LNG terminals that could then be piped ashore. I don't necessarily know if it's done to export anything, but it's definitely done to import. Um, so it's pretty cool, man. I do want to look into it a little bit more. Um, so Chris, I need to chat with you, and I also need to have Chris on to talk about Rocket Lab at some point. What made me get into that industry? Are you talking about what made me get into the petroleum and natural gas industry, or um, I assume that's what you mean, but I'll just wait for you to kind of answer. Yeah, Hot Chris knows what he's talking about. Although I don't like these new people he's associating with. Broke Expat John, what's going on, my guy? Hope you're doing well. Hope you are doing swell. Yeah, Dex. I assume you mean. But if you could just confirm, that'd be helpful. So I don't go down some rabbit hole. Come to Dominican Republic, going to Peru next. Huh. I'd be down to. I've been to the DR, but I'll see you in Peru, man. What I really want to do. I'm a big dude, right? So I don't really do a lot of outdoor activities, but what I would love to do is go see the Bolivian salt flats. So that would be cool if I'm able to do that and not have to do a bunch of hiking. That might be next on my list. But going back to why did Matt choose to get into petroleum and natural gas? So originally, I played sports growing up, mostly football, but I did a little bit of baseball when I was in like before high school, and then when I got into high school, I started playing football and really loved the atmosphere. But I wasn't very good at football. I'll just be blunt and honest with you guys. But I love the camaraderie, and all my friends played, and so what I originally was going to go to school for was I just have like a very good. I'm like a touchy feely dude, and I have like a good inkling for how the body should feel and move. So kinesiology is kind of like mentally good, like, and I get it. And like, if somebody tells me like I'm having shoulder pain, I'm able to find their knots and their sore spots really easily and help like kind of relax them. So, I just thought that kind of doing like a sports therapy thing for me would be really good. And so that's kind of what I went to school for originally. And, a couple of my classmates um, were really struggling, and I just didn't have to go to my physics class, I'll just say. And I would just be able to show up, go to the exam, do it, get pretty decent marks. And this person that was my neighbor in the dorms my freshman year, um, this is now sophomore year of college. He's like, dude, like I don't get it. He's like, you don't even have to come to class. You're doing so well at this. He's like, I just don't get it. And it wasn't like that for all my college career. So don't get it twisted. It was just this one physics class. There's a few classes like this, but like calculus, I had to really struggle to get. And once I got it, it was easy. But the first semester of calculus was really difficult for me. And then the second semester and third semester, I got pretty easily. And then I had the same problem with differential equations. I had to really study with that. But this individual was just like, man, like you're getting this physics thing real easy. Like, He's like, I have to drop out. He's like, I'm just not going to get it. And I was like, what's your major again? And I remember him telling me when we were freshmen, and he was just telling me a little bit about it. And I was like, I'd already started to have doubts a little bit about doing physical therapy and sports therapy, how competitive it would probably be. And I knew just a lot of competitiveness kind of coming into that market, um, with a lot of people that I was going to school with. And so I was like, you know what, man? Like maybe that is too competitive. And so he was telling me about how he had a buddy that was doing petroleum engineering and I should look into it. And so I did. I started looking up what petroleum engineering was. Now, keep in mind, this is like 2010 to 2011. And I was just like, kind of like pretty floored. I was like, this is really cool. I didn't know anything about this like industry per se. And, you know, paid really well. And so I was just like, let me take some classes. And I was like, let me gamble and see if I get in. And so I applied. And generally, when you apply to an engineering college, you have to have a certain GPA. And luckily, petroleum engineering, I got in, right? Not to say I had a bad GPA or anything, but some required you to have like really high 3 GPA. And luckily, petroleum engineering, because it was so small of a students, majority of the past few years, they didn't really have a GPA entry requirement. And it didn't really start putting one in until like a class or two after I graduated because it started getting really big again. But the first class was kind of the characteristics, reservoir characteristics of petroleum reservoirs or something like that. And it was an introductory class. And I just remember being like completely, like, and utterly blown away at how cool it was. Um, and what I just anticipated oil and gas reservoirs were just by chance these big caverns in the ground where you just had big pockets. And what I anticipated a completion engineer was like building like these columns in this reservoir so like it just doesn't collapse, right? Like that's what I thought like all this crap was. Lo and behold, no, you're actually producing it through rocks. Kind of like a sponge, right? So just imagine like this big sponge, but instead of it being squishy and spongy, it's a rock. And that's basically what oil is. So if you were to fill a cup of like this with water to the brim and then put a rock in it, like a sandstone or something like that, and then seal it off so there's no evaporation, um, eventually what you would end up seeing is um, the water level would actually decrease in the cup because it's actually going to go into the rock itself. And about 20 to 30% of that space in a sandstone is actually dead air. And I don't think people recognize that. And that's what oil's in. And if you drill through rocks like that and you have enough, I guess, thickness of it, and depending on how good quality the sandstone is, you could actually flow through the rocks and get your oil and gas wells. And that's basically what I do. It's pretty cool. Um, and I just try to make sure, like what we're working on now, I'm working on an exploration prospect that we might tie back. And, um, with that, just trying to figure out if it makes sense from an economic standpoint or not. Nerd, yeah. How do you feel about lithium miners as an alternative energy play from oil and gas? Good. I think it was a very big mistake for the EU to turn away from lithium and sorry, not lithium. Sorry, I'm combining things. It's late. Lithium miners as an alternative energy play for oil and gas. Well, lithium itself would be used in battery storage. So what you're referring to is battery storage for our wind or solar or hydroelectric or something of the like, to be able to power the grid at nighttime. So I think, yeah, what I was thinking you were talking more so is like uranium, which I think uranium and the EU going away from uranium, in my opinion, and nuclear in a general was a mistake. I think France is right. I think France does it really well, and maintains that they truly like nuclear power. In Germany, I think they decided to extend their nuclear plant that was supposed to end in 23. Um, but we will see. But I think a lot of people got to turn away from what happened, uh, turned away from nuclear with what happened in um, crap. Why am I drawing a blank? What happened in Japan in 2012? Fukushima. What happened in Fukushima in 2012? Jay's Place, what's going on, man? Dude, yeah, I definitely thought there were caverns full of dinosaur juice. But I want to talk about this because a lot of people think that because I work in oil and gas, I'm not necessarily for renewables. I see the opportunity for renewables. The problem I have with a little bit of it is it's kind of like smoke and mirrors a little bit. So, for example, if I were to install a 100 megawatt natural gas plant, that 100 megawatt natural gas plant is going to be able to supply me with a pretty consistent 80 to 90 megawatts of electricity on a consistent basis. And same thing with nuclear. If I say I have a 100 megawatt nuclear plant, it's probably going to be able to provide me 90 to 95 megawatts on a pretty consistent basis of energy. If I were to install a 100 megawatt solar system, I'd be lucky to see 20 to 25 megawatts. So at most, I might be able to see an output of say 40 to 45 megawatts during the day. And of course, you're seeing zero at night. And what you're going to average out to for the day is 20 to 25 megawatts. So here you are saying the capacities of both of these technologies, or these three technologies that I kind of alluded to. So the 100 megawatt capacity of the gas, the 100 megawatt of the nuclear, 100 megawatt of the solar, and they're all going to show up being said, hey, we're installing 100 megawatts. But in reality, what you're only getting is a fraction of that with solar. And that's not a problem per se, but it just goes to show you how much additional resources it might take than people actually think. And so that's a problem. And then couple that with it's not a day long providing energy like you would have with nuclear and like you would have with, say, a coal or natural gas fire plant. Um, so, yeah, I think people are just, I don't want to say naive, it's just how it's being spun off a little bit. And the same thing with wind energy. Wind energy is actually pretty good. It averages about 30 to 35% offshore. But a lot of that has to do with the ability that you're not going to be able to convert all that energy from wind into the turbine. Um, there's going to be a maximum threshold for that. And then you don't always have wind going as well. So that is going to be 30 to 35% efficient. And you're comparing that against, say, 100% efficient for a nuclear plant. So it's about dependability, right? Like if you had your opportunity to have something that was very consistent, 90 megawatts over the course of, say, 20, 30 years with routine downtimes that might be a week or two, then kind of back up in that consistent period again, you'd probably want to have that comparatively to something that is very sporadic and unpredictable. Um, but that goes to show you as well, like oil and gas itself, before you get it out of the ground, is very unpredictable. And when you're dealing with things that are sometimes, like for example, some of the stuff I deal with offshore are a mile beneath the water's surface, and then once you get to the mud line, another 2 to 3 miles down, you're talking 15 to 20,000 feet, sometimes up to 30,000 feet below the Earth's surface. It's very difficult to tell you what a rock looks like from 30,000 feet away until you drill through it, right? And then when you drill through it, you're trying to see what this aerial extent is when some of these reservoirs are literally the size of Houston. So you're giving me a little flag size pole of sample, and trying to then interpolate how that's going to go across the entirety of this large aerial map. So, um, think about rivers, right? The rivers that sometimes you see are only 3 feet wide, and then you go across some other rivers and they might be, 60 meters wide, right? So just drilling one little hole like this is sometimes good and bad, right? It's good data, but it might be data that's super high quality in just that one area, and might skew your opportunity to appropriately evaluate the entirety of the prospect. Interesting. Love that shit. Oh, specific talk about lithium. Uh, yeah, I think lithium's a good one. Um, I think what you're going to see is a lot of people moving. I don't want to say away from lithium. I think it's still important. There's other minerals like I know GM's moving not necessarily towards lithium 100%, but also cobalt based batteries. And so I think all these metal minerals that can be used for battery need to be kind of explored. Um, but I think it gets me back to my point, right? Is maybe it's I'm not trying to devalue what you're saying. I just want to help the room understand that lithium is to be used for storage, not for producing energy, right? And I just want to make that clear. Um, and you're saying grid storage has yet to really drive any lithium prices with August scrambling to get supplies for future car lines, which I agree. I'm trying to understand like fuel cell technologies and other companies. I'm trying to understand if they're trying to use lithium or what specifically are they trying to use. Um, and it's really escaping me. But I think the thing that's scary most about lithium is that the United States doesn't have a good supply of lithium. We have some supply, and I actually just worked with a company in one of my more recent videos who actually discovered a lithium mine that was um, close to one of the very few active lithium producing mines in North America in Nevada. So I'm kind of curious how that ends up. But um, yeah, I think all these earth metals need to be investigated. I don't know which one's going to win out, but lithium is very carbon intensive as well. And so I think a lot of people are starting to get recognition in that is twofold is, you know, lithium is only part of the equation. And then I'll probably get off after this because I should get to bed and get ready for tomorrow. Lithium is only one part of the equation. Yes, you need to have the battery storage, but the grid in which you are using to power that or charge that battery needs to also be clean. And right now, about 40% of that grid comes from natural gas, a little bit comes from petrol, and some of it still comes from coal. And so I think it's still close to 50% of it still comes from non lithium, or sorry, non 50% of it still comes from fossil fuel based energies. And so that's where I think the majority of the concentration needs to be at. You can make as many lithium batteries in the world as you want, but if your grid is still 50% fossil fuels, then you're really not solving any problems. Um, which is partly why initially I thought Teslas were a joke, was because initially Tesla wasn't offering a power wall. They weren't offering solar solutions. They weren't offering, and so I was literally just trying to get at the people of, I'm doing my part because I have an electric car, and I get it. It's potentially cleaner, um, but it also depends on what grid system you're on, right? So I mean, if you live very close to the Hoover Dam, then you're going to have a lot of hydroelectric power. If you live in some parts of Pennsylvania, you might have a lot of nuclear power. So that's fine because it's very low carbon intense electricity. But if you live in parts of Texas and stuff of the like, you're going to have a lot of natural gas as your electricity. Yeah, that's part of the problem, right? Is a lot of people just assume it's like, okay, well, we'll switch to wind and solar, and it's like you have to think all the grid that we're currently dealing with. One is crumbling, and then two, it's been built up over the course of the past 120 years, and so to try to change that overnight is difficult to do, and I don't think people recognize that it's going to take 20, 30 years for it to happen. Um, and just think about how long it took the car to go from where it was in the late 1890s to where Henry Ford was able to take it. And part of the problem that I have right now is I have yet to see an outright front runner in the renewable space. Um, there's a few front runners, I'll say overall, but nobody that's like a clear absolute winner as of yet. And I think maybe the biggest one would be Nextera Energy, but I honestly couldn't tell you who will win. What I can tell you is we'll need 3,500 to 5,500 gigawatt of installed capacity of renewables. And the most that most people are looking at, which still people think are as ambitious, is 50 to 100 gigawatts. So you mean to tell me that those people are going after 1 to 2% market share, basically? So you're telling me you have a lot of people looking at 1 to 2% market share, but nobody's looking at getting a 10% market share. And I want to know who's getting the 10% market share. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah, hopefully it was helpful, guys. Hopefully the new mic works out. Appreciate everyone standing by in the beginning when I was using the headset mic. That was not my intent. Um, so hopefully this Yeti mic works better in the future. And hey, H Town, what's going on? But yeah, gonna call it for the night. As always, leave questions in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to do it again. And hopefully next time, I can bring somebody on and chit chat for a little bit. Maybe what I'll do is just like one day a week. I don't know what day it'll be, but hopefully it'll be very consistent. But maybe one day a week, I can bring somebody on whenever it works for them and talk about a different stock. And I think that'll be fun. Normally, what I talk about is Palantir with those guys at Palantir Weekly on Fridays. But so if you guys haven't been seeing me, I've been doing those on Fridays, hanging out with Amit. So feel free to look him up. But and Chris is always there as well. But yeah, would love to bring some stuff back to my channel because I know my channel is a little bit dead, and I put a lot of effort into talking on other people's channels, and I need to get back to doing my own discussions over here. So, but as always, I appreciate you guys, and hopefully this was helpful. And I'm gonna get ready to go to bed, and I might go to the range tomorrow. Yeah, I might go to the range. It'll be a good time. So I will talk to you guys soon. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and have a good one. Cheers. Here.